Humans have always been fascinated by space, and since the beginning of time, we have developed various theories and ideas about the vast expanse of the universe. From the ancient Greeks to modern-day scientists, we have constantly sought to understand and explore the mysteries of space. Welcome to our video discussing the top 10 misconceptions about space. From the dark side of the moon to the reality of explosions in space, we'll be busting some common myths and setting the record straight on what's true and what's not when it comes to the vast expanse of our universe. But before we begin, if you like our content, consider subscribing to our channel and help us grow. Myth number 1, the moon has a dark side. This phrase might be familiar to you, as it's been used in various songs and movies. However, the concept of a dark side of the moon is actually a misnomer. The moon doesn't have a permanent dark side, as it's constantly rotating and its phases change over time. In fact, the moon has a far and visible sides. The far side, which is usually referred to as the dark side, is exposed to sunlight just as much as the side we see from Earth. The term dark side actually refers to the side of the moon that is not visible from Earth, due to the way the moon's orbit and rotation interact. This means that the moon's dark side is actually just as bright as the side we see, it's just that we can't see it from Earth. Myth number 2, explosions in space. Hollywood loves to depict massive explosions in space, with debris flying everywhere and loud noises accompanying the blasts. However, the reality of explosions in space is quite different. In the vacuum of space, there is no air to transmit sound waves, so explosions would be silent. Additionally, because there is no air in space, there would be no oxygen to fuel a fire, so any explosion would be short-lived and not nearly as dramatic as what we see in movies. For example, in the movie Gravity, there is a scene where a space shuttle explodes, causing debris to fly everywhere and the characters to be thrown around. However, in reality, this explosion would be silent and the debris would not fly around like it does in the movie. Instead, the debris would simply drift away from the explosion site due to the force of the explosion. Myth number 3, we have no weight in space. Another common misconception is that astronauts floating around in space have no weight and are immune to the effects of gravity. However, this is not true. Astronauts do have weight in space, and they are affected by the pull of gravity, just like we are on Earth. The reason they appear to float is because they are in a state of weightlessness, which occurs when they are in free fall around a planet or other celestial body. For example, if an astronaut were to jump off the International Space Station, they would not float off into space, but rather would fall towards the Earth at the same rate as the space station, due to the pull of gravity. Myth number 4, you can explode in space without a space suit. This myth is often perpetuated by science fiction movies, but it's simply not true. The vacuum of space is inhospitable to human life, but the human body is not at risk of spontaneously exploding. Without a space suit, an astronaut would experience rapid decompression, which can cause a number of harmful effects such as dizziness, nausea, and disorientation. However, the body would not explode. In the movie Total Recall, there is a scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger's character is caught in the vacuum of space without a space suit, and his body explodes as a result. However, this is not realistic and is simply a plot device used for the sake of the movie. Myth number 5, sound in space. Along the same lines as the myth about explosions in space, many people believe that there is sound in space, despite the fact that it's a vacuum. In reality, sound waves cannot travel through the vacuum of space, so there would be no way for sounds to be heard. This means that all of those epic space battles we see in movies, complete with laser blasts and explosions, would actually be eerily silent. In many Hollywood movies, there are scenes where spaceships are shown firing laser blasts at each other and explosions are happening all around. However, In reality, these events would be completely silent. The only sounds that astronauts would be able to hear in space would be those that are generated within their own spacecraft or spacesuit, such as the hum of the engines or the sound of their own breathing. Myth number 6, the Earth is perfectly rounded. While it's true that the Earth is generally spherical in shape, it's not a perfect sphere. The Earth is actually an oblate spheroid, which means that it's slightly flattened at the poles and bulges at the equator. This is due to the Earth's rotation, which causes the planet to bulge slightly at the equator due to the centrifugal force generated by the rotation. The Earth's oblate shape can be observed in the way that the Earth's gravity field varies slightly across the surface, with the gravitational acceleration being slightly stronger at the poles and weaker at the equator. This oblate shape is also visible in satellite imagery of the Earth, which shows a slightly flattened appearance at the poles and a more rounded appearance at the equator. However, despite this slight deviation from a perfect sphere, the Earth is still considered to be a sphere for practical purposes, as the difference in the Earth's shape is relatively small compared to the overall size of the planet. Myth number 7, comet tails are due to the fast movement of comets. Comets are often depicted as shooting through space with long, glowing tails trailing behind them. While it's true that comets are moving quickly through space, their tails are not caused by their movement. Instead, comet tails are formed when the sun's radiation pushes against the comet's icy surface, causing gas and dust to be expelled and creating the appearance of a tail. The direction of the tail is always away from the sun, regardless of the direction the comet is moving. This can be observed in comets such as Halley's Comet, which has a distinctive tail that points away from the sun as it travels through the solar system. Myth number 8, Mercury is the hottest planet. You might have heard that Mercury, the planet closest to the Sun, is the hottest in our solar system. However, this is not actually the case. Despite being the closest planet to the Sun, Mercury does not have the highest temperatures in the solar system. This is because Mercury has a very thin atmosphere, which means that it has a limited ability to retain heat. Instead, the hottest planet in our solar system is Venus, which has a thick, greenhouse gas-rich atmosphere that traps heat and causes surface temperatures to reach up to 864 degrees Fahrenheit. Myth number 9, the Sun is yellow or orange. The Sun appears to be a yellow or orange color when we see it in the sky, but this is due to the Earth's atmosphere scattering shorter wavelengths of light, such as blue and violet, more than longer wavelengths like red and orange. In reality, the Sun is actually a white dwarf star, and if we could see it without the interference of Earth's atmosphere, it would appear white. The Sun's surface temperature is around 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hot enough to emit white light. However, the Earth's atmosphere filters out the shorter wavelengths of light, causing the Sun to appear yellow or orange to us on the ground. Myth number 10, the asteroids in the asteroid belt are close together. Hollywood movies often depict the asteroid belt as a crowded, dangerous place with asteroids narrowly avoiding collisions with each other. However, in reality, the asteroids in the asteroid belt are actually quite spread out, with vast amounts of empty space between them. The distance between asteroids can be hundreds of millions of miles, making the chances of a collision between them quite low. In fact, the asteroid belt is much more sparsely populated than it appears in movies, with most of the asteroids being small, rocky bodies that are widely spaced apart. The largest asteroids in the belt, such as Ceres, Vesta, and Pallas, are separated by even greater distances. And it would take a spacecraft several months to travel from one to the other. So, despite the popular depiction of the asteroid belt as a crowded, dangerous place, it's actually a relatively empty region of space. We hope this video has helped clear up some of the common misconceptions about space. While there is still much we don't know about the universe, it's important to base our understanding of it on scientific fact, rather than myths and misconceptions. Thank you for watching.